We're working to connect a region of over 600 million bridges between our lands.
Good evening, I'm Alma Angeles and you're watching ASEAN in Focus on tonight's headlines. In a recent statement before a congressional session, the Department of Foreign Affairs has expressed the Philippines' willingness to engage in joint patrols with its countries in Southeast Asia as tensions continue to rise with China. Australian tourists and 2 Indonesians were found alive in the sea of Indonesia's west coast nearly 2 days after their boat was hit by bad weather. Heavy monsoon rains have caused devastating floods in southern Myanmar, killing at least 5 people, displacing tens of thousands more. Official sources indicate that Filipinos may have been impacted by the devastating wildfire in Maui, Hawaii, as confirmed by the Department of Foreign Affairs. And Lucasfilm's visual effects and animation studio in Singapore will close down in the coming months due to economic reasons. First in our news, in a recent statement before a congressional session, the Department of Foreign Affairs has expressed the Philippines' willingness to engage in joint patrols with its neighboring countries in Southeast Asia as tensions continue to rise with China. Foreign Affairs Secretary Enrique Manalo addressed the issue during the House of Representatives hearing on the agency's 2024 budget.
In principle, we are, of course, not involved in operational aspects, but in principle, we believe joint Coast Guard patrols or joint patrols could be useful, especially in our area, provided, of course, we agree on terms of reference and all the countries who participate agree on the terms of reference. But in principle, we're open. At the moment, wala yatang discussion in ASEAN for ASEAN joint patrols or Coast Guard patrols. But we have been in discussions with other countries for possible joint patrols, which includes our partners such as United States, Japan, Australia, and even China has proposed. So ang point dyan is we are open in principle. But of course, when it comes to the operational aspects, we defer to the Coast Guard or Navy. But wala pang joint patrols amongst other ASEAN countries. But I can say, though we've not yet really discussed this, if there are proposals forwarded by other ASEAN countries, we will be very open to consider them. But for the moment, we're not aware of any ASEAN-wide joint patrols. But as I said, in southern Philippines, there are ongoing joint patrols between Philippines, Indonesia, and Malaysia in the southern part, Sulu Sea.
Secretary Manalo emphasized that the Philippines remains committed to diplomatic and peaceful means in protecting its sovereignty within its exclusive economic zone. While the Philippines has explored the possibility of joint patrols with nations such as the United States, Australia, Japan, and China, Secretary Manalo clarified this. Take a listen.
Honorable, first, we're not on a war footing. What we're simply doing is trying to actually protect our sovereignty in the EEZ through diplomatic and peaceful means.
Additionally, Secretary Manalo shared that the ASEAN is set to resume negotiations for a code of conduct on the South China Sea.
We've also discussed bilaterally with other claimant states, including China. Pero siguro the one forum where perhaps all are present, including others, is the forum for the negotiations on the code of conduct for the South China Sea. In fact, they've already had 2 or 3 significant rounds of negotiation, and in fact, the next round is scheduled to be held here in Manila. So it's in this forum where all the members of ASEAN and China are actually meeting in the same body.
Mr. Chair, when is that scheduled?
The next round of negotiations on a negotiating text will be held here in Manila, 22 to 24 August.
Addressing the issue of China's claims and actions, Secretary Manalo highlighted that the agency doesn't possess any documentation confirming the Philippines' commitment to withdraw the BRP Sierra Madre, the grounded warship located at Second Thomas Shoal.
Well, on that point, it was claimed by the Chinese embassy, but we have no record of such an agreement. We asked China to give us a copy. They've never given us a copy of any written agreement. So unless we can get a clear indication that there was such an agreement, we have to just assume there's no such agreement that exists. We have already asked China at many levels for a copy, but they've never given us a copy. And we could keep on asking them, but I've never received a hard copy of such an agreement.
So while there have been suggestions to bring the matter before the UN General Assembly to call on China to cease its harassment of Philippine vessels in the South China Sea, some lawmakers have voiced a different perspective.
I have reservations with the Senate initiative to bring this problem to the United Nations, because the decision is already final and executory. It cannot be changed. It has to be enforced. And we have no idea of the geopolitics obtaining in the United Nations and how many members are for us or against us. So we should not take that risk. The best really is to have a meeting with the kindred countries supporting our claim.
In a historic move, the U.S. is hosting a summit of Japan and South Korea on Friday in a bid to reshape the regional landscape. The meeting, which will be held at Camp David, the presidential retreat in Maryland, will mark the first time that the three countries have held a trilateral summit in 5 years.
This summit comes at a moment when our region and the world are being tested by geopolitical competition, by a climate crisis, by Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine, by nuclear provocations. Our heightened engagement is part of our broader efforts to revitalize, to strengthen, to knit together our alliances and partnerships, and in this case, to help realize a shared vision of an Indo-Pacific that is free and open, prosperous, secure, resilient, and connected. Japan and South Korea are core allies, not just in the region, but around the world. Strengthening our trilateral cooperation is critical to delivering for our people, for the region, and for the world. It's a force multiplier for good. It helps us promote peace and stability and furthers our commitment to the complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. It advances our shared values and helps uphold principles of the UN Charter like sovereignty, independence, territorial integrity. It allows us to even more expand opportunity and prosperity. That's why President Biden is hosting this historic meeting. The first time foreign leaders have visited Camp David since 2015, the first standalone summit ever between our three countries.
The summit comes as tensions are rising in the Asia-Pacific region, with North Korea conducting a series of missile tests in recent months. The summit is also seen as a way to improve relations between Japan and South Korea, which have been strained in recent years. The two countries have been at odds over a number of issues, including the ownership of the Dokdo Islands and the legacy of Japan's occupation of Korea. The summit is expected to produce a number of joint initiatives.
Together, the leaders will have an opportunity to discuss and to strengthen practical cooperation on a variety of shared priorities, from physical security to economic security, from humanitarian assistance to development finance, from global health to critical and emerging technologies. And as we look to the future, this growing partnership will continue to enable us to do more for the security and the prosperity of all.
Heavy monsoon rains have caused devastating floods in southern Myanmar, killing at least 5 people and displacing tens of thousands more. The floods have hit hardest in the states of Cavite and Mon, where some areas have been completely submerged. The director of the Ministry of Social Welfare, Relief and Resettlement, Lai Juezin U, said that the situation in these areas is critical and that the death toll is likely to rise. In addition to the loss of life, the floods have also caused widespread damage to property and infrastructure. Schools have been closed, roads have been washed away, crops have been destroyed. Relief efforts are underway, but they're being hampered by the scale of the disaster. The government has called for international assistance, and the UN has pledged to send aid to the affected areas.
မရှိတော့ဆိုရင်များပြန်ကြမလားဆိုပြီးတော့စောင့်နေသေးတယ်လေပထမတော့သူကစောင့်လို့မရတော့နောက်ပိုင်းဆုံးတော့လေခေါ်ပြီးတော့ပြောင်းပြေးလာမိသားစုက9ယောက်တည်းအိတ်ဆက်နေရတယ်မရှိဘူးမရှိတော့လူကကိုပေါ်လာဆိုကိုပိုင်သားကြီးဆိုတော့အဲ့လိုတယောက်တည်းတိုးဖွင့်ပြီးအေးရတာပေါ့
ပုံမှန်ကြီးတာတော့ဟိုဒူးကောင်းလောက်ရက်ွက်မတူဘူးနှိမ့်တဲ့ရက်ွက်ဆိုရင်တော့ပေါအောင်လောက်အဲ့လောက်ကတော့နှစ်တိုင်းမိုးရွာရင်မိုးရင်းလို့ကြီးတယ်ဒီလောက်ကြီးကြတော့ဒါတော်တော်များတဲ့နှစ်လို့ပြောအောင်ဘူးမှမထင်တော့ဒီနှစ်မှာဒီလောက်ကြီးမယ်လို့
The floods are a reminder of the vulnerability of Myanmar to natural disasters, and the country is located in a region that is prone to monsoon rains and cyclones. In 2008, Cyclone Nargis killed over 138,000 people in Myanmar. Myanmar authorities have arrested nearly 150 Rohingya refugees suspected of trying to flee the country, according to an official. The Rohingya, a Muslim minority group, are seen as interlopers from Bangladesh and are denied citizenship in Myanmar. They require permission to travel, but many attempt to flee the country in search of a better life. The arrests come amid a renewed crackdown on the Rohingya by the Myanmar military. In 2017, the military launched a brutal campaign against the Rohingya, driving hundreds of thousands of people into Bangladesh. The United Nations has accused the military of genocide, and the country is facing legal action at the International Court of Justice. The 127 Rohingya men and 18 women were arrested on Friday near the village of Waikami in southern Mon State. They were reportedly trying to board a boat to Malaysia when they were intercepted by security forces. 4 Australian tourists and 2 Indonesians were found alive in the sea off Indonesia's west coast on Tuesday, nearly 2 days after their boat was hit by bad weather. The group was found drifting at sea using surfboards and styrofoam, according to local rescue agency head Octavianto.
Kelihatannya hancur, tenggelam, rock itu kemudian mereka hanya bertahan dengan surfing board dengan gabus busa-busa saja tadi beberapa terakhir. Dan kondisi mereka sehat semua, tidak ada masalah. Sementara tidak ada luka, hanya satu aja masih hilang.
No clear information was immediately available about how or where the 2 Indonesians were found. The boat carrying the 4 Australians and 3 Indonesians left Nayas Island for the private island of Penang on Sunday. However, the boat failed to arrive, prompting authorities to launch a search and rescue operation on Monday. Rescuers found some of the group on Tuesday morning, but 1 Indonesian is still missing. The search for the missing Indonesian is ongoing. The survivors are in good health and have been taken to a hospital in Nayas for further treatment. They're said to be relieved to be alive and grateful to the rescuers for finding them.
Udah ketengah kali kami bang. Berarti sempat ke sana arahnya? Iya, ke arah sana. Aku mikir, ini apa ini dikerjain hantu gitu, buka baju lah. Kayak muter-muter di situ aja bang. Posisi malam, sudah gelap. Udah gelap.
The Move Forward Party, which won the most seats in Thailand's recent election, has rejected its former alliance partner, the Pheu Thai Party, in its bid to form the next government. This decision has sparked concerns over the election outcome and the voice of the public. Move Forward, known for its progressive stance, secured victory in the May 14 election, closely followed by the Pheu Thai Party. This turn of events marked a resounding rejection of nearly a decade of government influence by the military. However, the alliance between the 2 winning parties crumbled when a bicameral parliament, where the military still wields substantial influence, rejected Move Forward leader Pita Limjaroenrat's prime ministerial bid not once but twice last month. With Thailand currently under a caretaker government for 5 months, the Move Forward Party's refusal to support the Muay Thai Party's bid could potentially prolong the ongoing political uncertainty stemming from the parliamentary deadlock. Move Forward Secretary General Chaiwat Tulaton said the party's decision was based on the belief that the formation of the government now is not reflective of the people's voice and distorts the will of the people in the elections. Muay Thai, a seasoned player in Thai politics, has been accused of maneuvering to secure its leadership position within the government. Despite a history of contention with the military, Muay Thai has actively sought support from parties and senators aligned with generals involved in past coups. The death toll from the horrific wildfire that leveled the Hawaiian town of Lahaina has surpassed 100, according to the state governor. Governor Josh Green said that the final count from the tragedy could be much higher, as search teams have only been able to search a quarter of the disaster zone.
101 lives have now been lost. 27% of the survey has been completed. I spoke with the president this morning. We speak often. He and Jill Biden extend their absolute love and heartfelt regrets about the tragedy that's occurred. They're heartsick that we've lost these 101 souls. They will come to be with us. If President Biden could just teleport himself over, he would have come here in 5 seconds. I've never seen such dedication in a president who within 6 hours dedicated his time to determine that this was an emergency and to commit full repair, full reconstruction for our people here in Hawaii.
The wildfire, which broke out last week, is the deadliest in the United States in over a century. It has destroyed more than 2,000 homes and businesses in Lahaina, a picturesque tourist spot on Maui. Green said that search teams are using dogs trained to look for bodies to comb through the ashes of the town. He also said that the search is slow and methodical, as the teams are careful not to disturb any potential evidence.
To that end, we have over 500 hotel rooms already up and going. At the Royal Lahaina, we already have 331 people in those hotel rooms. We filled that hotel up right away, but we have a 500 plus hotel room inventory for individuals who have been affected. We also have 473 listings in the state with our Hawaii Fire Relief Housing Program.
President Joe Biden, meanwhile, said during remarks in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, that he and First Lady Jill Biden will visit Hawaii.
My wife Jill and I are going to travel to Hawaii as soon as we can. That's what I've been talking to the governor about. I don't want to get in the way. I've been to too many disaster areas, but I want to go make sure we got everything they need. I want to be sure we don't disrupt the ongoing recovery efforts. I've spoken to Governor Josh Green multiple times and reassured him the state will have everything it needs from the federal government. I immediately approved the governor's request for expedited major disaster declaration. That's a fancy word of saying whatever you need, you're going to get.
He also outlined assistance provided by FEMA, including payments of $700 per household for immediate needs.
To date, FEMA has approved 50,000 meals, 75,000 liters of water, 500 beds, 10,000 blankets, and as well as other shelter supplies for survivors displaced from their homes. FEMA also authorized one-time payments of $700 per household to folks who have been displaced, so they can do the immediate things of just taking care of medications and prescriptions that they so badly need.
Meanwhile, President Marcos Jr. has directed his focus towards the plight of Filipinos impacted by the devastating wildfires that have swept through Maui, Hawaii. Taking to social media, he revealed his ongoing coordination with the Department of Foreign Affairs and the Department of Migrant Workers to ascertain the precise number of Filipinos affected by the fires, particularly on the island of Maui. Foreign Affairs Undersecretary Eduardo de Vega affirmed the Philippine authorities stand ready to extend assistance to distressed Filipinos in Hawaii. De Vega underscored the significant presence of Filipinos and Filipino Americans in the area, accounting for approximately 17% of Maui's population. President Marcos Jr. highlighted that concerned individuals can connect with the Philippine Consul General in Hawaii through a dedicated 24/7 emergency hotline. Now, official sources have now indicated that Filipinos may have been impacted by the devastating wildfire in Maui, Hawaii, as confirmed by the Department of Foreign Affairs. The DFA said that the Hawaii State Emergency Management Agency is currently engaged in search and rescue operations aimed at determining the identities and nationalities of the individuals who tragically lost their lives.
However, they did not come up with a breakdown ng mga ethnicities ng mga ito. Isa pang report ng ating Philippine Consulate ng Honolulu na meron pong mga 50 mga guro na J1 visa holders. Ito ho yung mga exchange visitor program natin with the United States, kung saan yung mga guro natin ay naka-hire ng Hawaii State Department of Education to stay there for 2 or 3 years at babalik po ng Pilipinas. So itong mga 50 to na na-assign sa Maui, they mark themselves as safe para sa ating para sa kapanan ng mga pamilya po nila dito. They're now being housed at a shelter given by the Hawaii State and the US government authorities. Konting perspektiba lang po kasi sa US State Census 2020, there are about 388,000 individuals in the state of Hawaii who identify themselves as Filipino or part Filipino. And of this 388,000, about 200,000 naman po ay born in the United States, while the rest, 200,000 are identify themselves as pure Filipino, meaning mother and father. Dun sa 200,000 na ito, about 70% were born in the United States, so mga US citizens po sila. And then of the remaining 30%, about 16% na lang po ang natitirang Philippine passport holders. So if you're looking at the total 388,000 who identify as Filipino or part Filipino, mga konting-konti na lang po, 25,000 ang natitirang Philippine passport holders sa state ng Hawaii. The likelihood na may mga kababayan or Filipino ancestry na naapektuhan ng wildfire sa Lahaina ay very high, but the likelihood that they are Philippine passport holders is very minimal at talagang napakahirap po. In fact, ang ginawa ng mga Red Cross offices po doon, they ask those na may nawawalang mga kamag-anak to DNA, to submit their DNA kasi hindi rin pa nila na-identify yung 79 na nakita nilang fatalities. So it's a little difficult at this point to say that there are Filipino passport holders na involved. Pero suffice it to say, marami sa mga kababayan natin, although they've been in the US for 20, 30, 40 years, have been affected by the wildfires in Lahaina.
The DFA emphasized its commitment to extending assistance to Filipinos affected by the wildfire. It said it is in close contact with the Philippine Consulate General in Honolulu and is monitoring the situation closely. The Hawaii wildfire incident has tragically earned the distinction of being the deadliest wildfire to strike the U.S. in a century. The United Nations Human Rights Office, or OHCHR, has called on the Vietnamese authorities to immediately halt the execution of Nguyen Van Truong, following reports of serious allegations of torture and fair trial violations. The UN Human Rights Office also urged the authorities to conduct an independent investigation into the torture allegations. Mr. Truong is accused of murdering a police officer in 2007 and has been in detention for 16 years. According to a statement from the OHCHR, the individual maintains his innocence, claiming his confession was obtained through torture. The use of confessions extracted under torture violates international human rights standards. Despite a global trend towards abolishing capital punishment, Vietnam continues to use the death penalty, reportedly often in secret. In a statement, OHCHR urged the Vietnamese authorities to establish transparency and respect the rights of prisoners and their families. It has also called for an official moratorium on all executions. Beyond the region, Wilco, a British company specializing in household goods, has recently faced a collapse due to substantial debts, as confirmed by its CEO. This unfortunate turn of events has had a significant impact, leading to approximately 12,500 job losses. The challenges of soaring inflation and elevated interest rates have taken a toll on both consumers and businesses. Reporting from the United Kingdom, here's Catherine Messina with the details.
British household goods company Wilko has announced its collapse owing to big debts impacting about 12,500 jobs as high inflation and interest rates hurt consumers and businesses. Operating out of 400 UK stores and online selling small household items, the group has formally entered administration, a process that could see parts of the business saved. Wilko Chief Executive Mark Jackson stated in an open letter on its website that they have agreed that time has run out and it is now best to preserve as many jobs as possible. Wilko has appointed PricewaterhouseCoopers as administrators of the distressed company founded in 1930 and headquartered in Worksop, Central England. Zelf Hussain, a partner at PwC heading the administration team, is incredibly saddened that a well-loved family business that has been on the high street for over 90 years has had to go into administration. Hussain added in a statement that the administrators would engage with parties who may be interested in acquiring all or part of the business. The G&B union blamed poor management for the collapse of Wilko. G&B National Officer Nadine Horton stated that 12,000 workers, now facing potential redundancy, will take little solace that with better management, the situation that has befallen Wilko was sadly entirely avoidable. Jackson said there had been significant work to streamline costs and transform the way the business operates. British customers and businesses continue to face soaring costs, with UK annual inflation at 7.9%, the highest among G7 countries. In a bid to cool price rises, the Bank of England has raised its key interest rate 14 times in a row since the end of 2021 to 5.25%, a 15-year high. That has helped cut the inflation rate from a 41-year peak of 11.1% in October last year. This is Catherine Messina from London, United Kingdom, reminding you to stay safe, for we live in extraordinary times.
Lucasfilm's visual effects and animation studio in Singapore will close down in the coming months due to economic reasons, according to parent firm Disney. Now, the studio, which was set up in the 2000s by Industrial Light Magic, or ILM, was involved in high-profile Hollywood productions, including Iron Man, The Avengers, and Star Wars films. Disney said that the closure was due to economic factors affecting the industry and that it would be consolidating its global footprint. The company didn't say how many employees would be affected in Singapore. The closure of the Singapore studio is part of a wider reorganization at Disney, which is cutting 7,000 jobs worldwide. The company is facing stiff competition from streaming services like Netflix and Amazon Prime Video, and its traditional television business is eroding. The Singapore studio was located in the striking Sandcrawler building, which was named after the Star Wars transport that inspired its design. Lucasfilm sold the building in 2021. The closure of the Singapore studio is a blow to the country's film and television industry. Singapore has become a major hub for visual effects and animation work in recent years, and the closure of the film studio will leave a void. As my usual habit, I'd like to end the day on a positive note. Let's encourage and build each other up so that no one is left behind. And that's it for tonight's broadcast. I'm Alma Angela. Stay in the news because we live in extraordinary times. Good night.